Hello and warm welcome the audience to New Generation Women, and I'm Janine van Zenos. This is going to be such a unique talk show because it is so dear to my heart. We're talking about transformation, vulnerability, forgiveness, honesty, and we are talking about love. Today we are talking about Take Me Home. It's a documentary showing a group of strangers who come together at a modern-day monastery in Utah for a month-long retreat. Today I have 6 guests at my Zoom table from United States, from Mexico, from Mallorca, and from the Netherlands. But before I introduce my guests to you, let me share the feeling and the spirit of this beautiful movie captured beautifully in the following trailer.
I'm so afraid of the unknown. I'm so afraid to be alone, and I try to hear your guiding voice, but still I don't know where to go. But I see your hand next to mine, and I'm holding on so tight. Please promise me you'll never let go. Oh, take me home today. Oh, I wanna go home today. Take me home where I truly belong. Take me home today. My heart speaks so clean, but still I'm paralyzed by fear, and I lack in trust. I lack in faith. My ego made me go astray, and I see your hand next to mine, and I'm holding on so tight. Please promise me you'll never let go. Oh, take me home today. Oh, I wanna go home today. Oh, take me home where I truly belong. Take me home today. Oh, lead the path for me. Wherever you go, there I'll be. Show me the way to be where I never left. Take me there.
Oh my God.
Oh, take me home. Take me home.
I have watched this trailer so often, the audience, and the Dutch singer is Neda Boyen. She's actually going to be one of my next talk show guests, and I'm letting you know when she's going to be on air. So who is going to be with me today It's going to be the film director, Frances Su, who Googled what a film director is going to do on the day she started filming because she had absolutely no clue what a film director is doing. I love that part. And then we have the most authentic cast ever. I tell you later why. The couple Susannah van Toff, currently in the Netherlands, Jeffrey Cosker in the US, and also in the US, Francis Romero, and from Mallorca, Emily Alexander, and Soren Lyngsgaards. Hello and warm welcome from Munich to you guys. Hello.
Hi.
So how are you? So let me go back to the seed phase when the film actually happened, Frances. It happened 2011. It was a dream. You had a dream. What was the dream for you?
It was basically, I just finished my first mind training phase in the monastery, and I went back to Australia with this desire to share what I have received in that 3 month period, and also just felt so much hope that that healing is real. You know, we can truly be free from the sufferings and all the pain that we experience in this life. So in the dream, actually, I woke up with the dream. In the dream, I made a documentary film about the healing and the life in this Living Miracles monastery.
Do you still remember the pictures you had in that dream? Was it a voice, or did you see pictures?
Yeah, it was a real nighttime dream. So it was pictures, experiential, and I woke up with it, that I made it, and it was so uplifting and joyful. So yeah.
And talking about timing, and also David always repeats, you know, there is no linear timing. So time and space is illusion. I mean, 2011 was the start of a dream, and then 2019, or did you shoot 2018?
We shot 2017.
17. So 6 years later, like suddenly the voice or, you know, the guidance kicked in. Wasn't it this way?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, I think it was in February 2017 where first it was someone who is a professional director who had made real Hollywood movies, came to us and wanted to collaborate, particularly inspired to collaborate on a movie project. And I already had this at the back of my mind, so it was an immediate kind of resonance to say, okay, let's do it. So that was almost like a prompt to say, okay, the time is now. We have someone who's professional who wants to join us. And then I quickly made a few phone calls. One of them was to Soren, who was based in Copenhagen, Denmark at the time. He also is a documentary filmmaker. So he said yes. So there's two big one who in my mind a very solid yes, and felt like then the ball just got started from that point, start to roll.
Had no thoughts of am I going to fail? Am I going to be enough? Am I going to make a fool out of myself? So the usual thoughts that human beings have, that didn't even occur anymore to your mind. So they were already undone.
I really didn't have those thoughts. I didn't have any time to have those thoughts. I was just way too inspired, and those thoughts came later on. It's like when I was in my editing room.
So the piece of humanity is left. But I mean, I just feel it, what I would feel, and how I would have made myself completely a fool of myself. But I know I can perform. You don't see it in the outside, but inside, you know, the swirl is going around, and it's hell. But I can really perform as nothing is happening in the outside. But of course, you don't want to have that. So to the cast. Did you just come and wanted to have this transformational journey, which is brave already? And when you arrived at the airport, something you're nodding your head, Frances, and then you're going to hear that you're going to be part of a movie. I mean, didn't you feel like I'm going to pack my suitcase and I just run away? How did you feel, Frances? You're nodding your head and smiling.
Yeah, I had just gone to the monastery to volunteer to be helpful. and I love the community. I love the time that I spend there. And so I had no intention of being in a movie. I thought I was going to be in the background. I didn't think that there were other participants that were, I thought, going to be in the movie. And I was just there to be a staff member, to be helpful in the kitchen.
And you're not just a staff member and helpful, you're going to show your most vulnerable feeling to so many people. And who knows, it's going to be millions of people, like Brene Brown, when she said, I have to delete this, this speaking engagement that I did. Did you know the story of Dr. Brene Brown, who got so popular with a speaking engagement that might happen to you? She thought it's just texting people, just a few hundred people. And she was so embarrassed, she asked her friend if she could somehow steal the recording from the main center so nobody will see it. And then she said, well, just a few hundred will see it then, but I'm going to be embarrassed anyway. And then got the most popular speaking engagement in the world. She has above 40 million clicks in the world. And it's so wonderful to hear the story behind the most popular talk, The Power of Vulnerability. So I highly recommend it, dear audience. I put it also into the text box. Jeffrey and Susannah, how did you feel? You came as a couple. And you knew already, I think by that time, you knew already how it is to live in the community. So spontaneous and wholly instant and acting on this and open your mind wasn't new to you. But when did you know that you're going to be characters and the main characters in the movie? You can both go ahead, Susannah or Jeffrey.
Well, we didn't know. I remember we were just part of the movie team and the meetings. And well, part of the meeting was, what are we going to film today and who are we going to follow today? And we were.
Oh, she's frozen at the moment. I hope she's coming back. Jeffrey, would you like to kick in until Susannah's coming back?
Sure.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like Susannah was sharing, we didn't really know at the beginning that I had an inkling that we may be characters. I was inspired by being part of the movie crew and the production of it, but I didn't really have a deep desire to be in front of the camera. And, you know, there was a willingness to whatever it was, and, you know, following the, you know, the director, which was Francis. And I think the day that I really thought, wow, I think this movie is going to be about me, or be one of the storylines, was I was walking back to my dome, and the scene where you see me walking,
yes,
and I pick up a
we
light,
have it, yes.
turn around, and Raphael is following me. You know, I was like, okay, this is going to be, I will be one of the characters most likely. But it was, yeah, it was probably at that point that I realized it. And yeah, I still like to look back and see what my prayer was. And, you know, it was for trust during this movie. And I thought it would happen on the other side of the camera, you know, just trusting Francis as a director in this. I didn't know it was going to go into the deeper hurts that I had with past relationships. And we didn't know that we were going to get married at the beginning of the month. That, you know, as
I didn't want to tell them. I didn't want to tell them in the end.
you can edit that piece out.
That is such, you know, the love story. You have it on camera, but no, go ahead.
No spoiler.
That's you know, that's a woman thing. Sorry, Jeffrey.
So all of that was a real surprise.
It was, yeah, it was, I mean, I also, the second time I saw the movie with my mom and with my girlfriend, and we all cried. So you made such a special event out of that, really beautiful. And the daughter of my girlfriend came in, and she said, when you came in as a bride, Susannah, she didn't see the movie before. She just popped in and said, oh, what a beautiful bride. Of course, everybody is still in the Pretty Woman Hollywood romance. So that was good at this part. Susannah, were you afraid at one point? I mean, you lived for 3 years in the co-living community and Living Miracles community. Were you afraid when you heard you're going to be on the movie? Or were you so relaxed at that time that those thoughts don't occur anymore to you?
Well, at the time, we were living in the community for about maybe 6 months or maybe a little less when we went to Utah and part of the film team. But I was really terrified because one of my things, like speaking in front of people, being in front of a camera, being in front of a group, like those were a lot of the things that really, really scared me for most of my life. So I wasn't really comfortable at all. And then there was a lot of healing going on, and then that's being captured. So no, that was not very comfortable. I was pretty scared.
I'm
But
so impressed. I mean, we will talk about this in a second when I ask Emily and Soren, because I cannot feel in a second that you guys notice the camera even. I so applaud how you do that. And when I now hear that you were terrified, that is so, it is so not felt at all. It felt so as if you guys didn't even know that the camera was there. And that really impressed me, because I worked with businesses who asked me, please, Janine, can you work with authenticity? I'm talking about business people who think that authenticity is a quick fix. You have a nice PowerPoint presentation, and then you have maybe a nice speaking engagement, and your people are going to be authentic. And as soon as they have to talk the truth, I mean, we're just talking about minor truths. We're not coming close to the way how you showed your vulnerability and exposed your experiences and your wounds to us. I mean, we're not showing that close. That was a time when I said to them, don't even dare to think about coming to me and training the people in your businesses authenticity, because it is such a long journey. It takes so much bravery and vulnerability, or the willingness to be vulnerable. So that's why I thought you guys are so brave and so authentic. I've never seen that. You always feel kind when somebody is feeding the camera. You can feel the self-consciousness in people, and I didn't feel that in you guys for a second, and nobody of you. So again, congratulations. And it's really worth seeing that, because it makes it so real. And it's so important that people show their realness. Soren, you came and you knew it already. So you were the only one who knew that you're going to be on the team and be part of the filming. How did you feel when, did you know that you're going to be on the camera, or did you think you're going to be behind the camera?
I had no idea when I came what the whole project was. I knew somehow. I've talked to Francis about what I've done before, and I've made a documentary before where I was the main character in the documentary I made myself. So I had some kind of inkling that this might go the same way, but I didn't have a clue about what was going to happen when we actually came there, because it was such we were such in the unknown about what is the content of this documentary. Is it about the 20 participants in the mystery school, or is it is it I don't think we had an idea from the beginning that this was about the film team itself. But so yeah, it was something that organically developed when we came.
I love that so much, because that was also the purpose of the movie, Francis. You want to show that guidance is in the now, and guidance is immediate, and guidance is in the holy instant. That the concept around future and past is our mind. And I remember when I listened to you talking and being such a fan of your movie, I remember that in February or March, shortly before Corona happened, I had a workshop with my partner, and he is very controlling and all about concept, analytical. Now I'm, for the business people, I'm always terror. I'm a threat, because I'm creative, spontaneous, I'm the paradise bird. And if I'm in good terms, I can play with it. And at that day, I had a good day, and I felt, the whole thing is not going well, and our concept outlined it differently. And I said to my business partner in the coffee break, look, we totally have to lead everything. We totally have to start from scratch, and we have to go moment by moment what is happening. And we had 110 people, and the board of directors were there. So kind, really important people to the businesses, where everything has to be correct and 100% right. And he looked at me with terror in his eyes, while I said, skip the program, skip everything, just toss it away. Let's be, in the moment and listen to our guidance. And then I could see the poor man, he was like having rings in his eyes, and you could see like, oh gosh, like a small boy. And I went to him and said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Peter." I said, "No, who are you?" "God." "Yes, yes, that's the kind of mantra we are having." So we did this workshop completely on, just a day, but we did it moment by moment. We had no clue. It was one of the best workshops ever, and people were so engaging, and they would stand in line to thank us in the end. And everybody said it was so surprising. It was so surprising for us too. We had no clue what is happening the next moment. And I think, boy, how much work could we save? How much liveliness could we have if we could learn more the concept or more the approach of being in the moment and trusting that, where everything that is lively is coming forward and everything that is connecting what we all want is then really coming together. Emily, of course, I want to ask you too. You are for 5 years in the Living Miracles community, I think. You're now in Mallorca. So what made you come? You're coming from England originally. What made you come to the monastery to Utah?
Well, yeah, I've been in the community for a number of years now, and we have a few centers in different places. So yeah, the way that we live is really just following the guidance of the spirit. So at any moment, there could be guidance that comes in to be part of a new project, a new collaboration. And up to the point of the beginning of the mystery school, I had been in Mexico, but the year beforehand, I had been involved in the preparation for this mystery school, which was what was happening that month when the filming was going on. So not really anything to do with the documentary. I hadn't been involved in any of that, but I was just there to support with the mystery school, with all the participants that came in, and yeah, just be available and be of service. And yeah, it was a very full month of just being fully used by the Spirit. So that was the context for me being there.
Frances, as a director and as any kind of leader, and you're all leaders, you're doing lots of retreats at the moment, beautiful online retreats. Congratulations again, you guys, how you set this so professional in motion since Corona happened. You really do beautiful online retreats, but normally you do a lot of on-site retreats also. As a leader, you know about setting the stage, I call it. Frances, to make people so open or so vulnerable, did you have any inkling how you're going to set the stage or how you're opening up the people? Because I remember when you had the first talks and you felt, oh, I don't know if I'm losing the people in my team. You were such a patient listener. I mean, when people were talking to you, and not everybody was, someone was expressing his or her hurtful feelings, you didn't have the team totally behind your back. So how did you set the stage for people telling you the truth and being stable within yourself? I mean, that's what a leader is actually doing, which is so rare to see, but you did that.
You. Well, I think with this particular group, before everybody arrived, for example, with Soren, he never came to our monastery, he never came to our community. It was the first time that he actually came to an environment like that. So I had a few calls with Soren before. I just want to make sure that we had the same intention, that we're going to use this project for healing first and foremost. Like, I want to know whether we have the same priority in our mind. And Soren definitely, I can feel he was very spiritually mature. And so when we talked about our lives, and he said he is feeling more than anything, he wants to heal his own pain in his mind. At the time, we didn't know what that would be, but it feels the same with Susannah, Jeffrey, who were already in the community, very much so. Everybody who came had that priority for their life. Emily, Frances, Romero as well. We know each other for a long time. Every year she came to the monastery to serve, but for the same purpose. So I would say setting the stage didn't happen when we came together in April. It was kind of subtly happening happening like for a long time. And I feel like invitation is extremely important, you know, to know that there is an invitation from everybody in the team to say that, you know, we are here for this purpose, and if you know you want to lead us, then we're gonna follow you. So I really felt that enabled me to set the stage in the first place. We have this mutual priority and desire and goal. And then when we first came together, it was just very easy to share the context over and over again. This is what we're really here for, and we're gonna pray, and we are going to learn how to focus on the guidance, listen and follow. So that was a lot of the communication. I feel like the most important thing would be knowing about that we're really on the same page in the most core of the purpose of doing something, and then constant communication.
And then, of course, if we have that purpose, humanity kicks in, you know, and all the blockages come up. So you have got two very strong scenes in the movie. The first scene we captured as a scene, and we're going to play it now, and we will talk about it afterwards.
At one point, we can be really close, you know, really sharing, and at one point, you're just far away, you know, having the big picture, and then I feel abandoned. You know. It's like that's what it takes for me to feel abandoned. That you know, I'm not there anymore. And I know you have to do what you have to do, but that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And then I mind my own business.
So what I liked so much is you have 35 years of TV experiences in Denmark. So you come there and you're following a film director who's much younger than you, who's a female, and who has absolutely no clue about film directing, which of course can push some buttons. And you come there and you have to follow instructions while you absolutely know what to do. What did it do with you? At one point, did you feel, I'm just reluctant to follow instructions. I just don't trust this.
Yeah, this is a good question. When did that happen? Yeah, I think from the beginning, it was a totally different environment that I was used to come. You know, from a TV station, and things are structured, and things, you know, there's a schedule, and everything is kind of thought out from the beginning. And then this was different, and I think well into the project, Francis had a talk that we call "Why Are We Here?" talk, where she kind of laid out the whole foundation for what is listening and follow. And for the first time, I think it was, maybe we have been there for 10 days. And at that time, when she had that talk, it dawned on me, she actually wants to be total in control. She wants to be the total authority here. So whatever she's right or wrong, I want to follow her. That was a totally new concept in my mind. And I was kind of afterwards, after that talk, I was thinking, wow, she wants to take me from this disturbed mind that I am now into the kingdom of heaven. That was her. Wow, I said, wow. And she said it with such confidence in that talk.
Yeah, that's true.
That I said, wow, this is amazing. And I think for the first time, I began to have an inkling of what it, you know, how could I take that leap to actually be following that inner guidance, which in this project was to follow Francis. And as a preliminary step to begin to have the confidence in the inner voice that, and it was so new, it was so alien to, and in that, you know, then suddenly it, you know, all these authority problems comes up in me, you know, who, she doesn't know, I want to lead, you know, I know about this, you know, I know better than she does. And it came up, you know, and it was and I was angry, and I was, yeah, all that.
I think we all can so relate to that. I mean, absolutely. And there's another, that's one of my favorite scenes. And I promise you, Soren, that I'm not getting too emotional because I was so passionate about that one. And as I said, the second time I watched it with my mom and with my girlfriend, and we absolutely fell in love with you. I mean, that's the kicker of, you know, falling in love with a man who shows his, you know, is not guarded, who's not pretending, who's not performing, showing his utmost vulnerable feelings, who cannot sing, but who sings with a beautiful professional singer. And they are singing in all kind of different ways. The audience, just for this part, you have to get the movie package. They are singing, I Don't Trust You. I mean, it's not even beautiful. It is so honest. But, you know, you both are so, that is, I'm so sorry. I'm so making my compliments again, but we were laughing. I mean, we were hugging each other while we were watching that scene. It was so beautiful. How did you feel when you did this? Trying to get the camera away, that I'm not going to cry.
Well, the setup was that everybody, you know, wanted to go to this voice liberation sessions with Nita, and I didn't want to go there, you know, because
sure, you didn't want to go and you had to go. It's my favorite scene.
But Francis said, well, you should try it, you know, you should try to go. And then, why? Be good. and then I said, okay, so this is probably my contribution to the movie or something like that, because they put up 3 cameras and the whole thing was there, you know. And I said, okay, let's go. And and Nita is really good, you know. She's and I think, you know, from what I've heard from her since, you know, she was totally abandoning her knowledge about voice liberation. She was totally following guidance. She you know, when she changed my attempt to, you know, be trustful, she said, you know, that doesn't sound good, you know, you should, you know, say, I don't trust you. And that felt so authentic. That felt so it was like in that statement, I could put my whole being, and it was like I could scream it out somehow. And there was some feeling of catharsis in it, that I, for the first time, I could, you know, express something that was really that's been on my mind. And I was you know, in that context, it felt kind of profane, or it, you know, it felt somehow not spiritual, but somehow there was this, there was just this, you know, it was like I broke through some kind of block. It felt like.
And what I like so much, I mean, so many people are so afraid to express their truths. So many people are hiding. And when I ask, you know, in workshops, why are you afraid to express your truths? You know, show yourself vulnerable. And then when you see, like you guys, when you see somebody who is vulnerable and then saying the truth, I think you just can love somebody. I mean, you take the wind out of everybody's mind, of assumptions, of judgments, and suddenly there's this peace when people show their vulnerability. While we have been so afraid of showing that to other people, it connects people right away. I see this so often. And so many times, as I said, when businesses come, they always want to be honest, authentic, and vulnerable, and everything. They want to have a leader who's authentic, honest, and vulnerable. But nobody is saying anything, and nobody is talking the truth. And then they have learned to be appreciative, so they put one layer after another, and you feel like, oh, this is so not real. So sometimes I would also, go in like Neda did with you and say it as it is. What is really on your mind? And people would just not say it, but I'm just so much on in their neck, in quote. I so go in and say what it is. Say what you really want to say. And even if it doesn't feel good, even if it's ugly, don't put more whipped cream on a piece of shit. Let's talk about the shit for a moment, and then we can talk about the other things. And I think that is so important if you want to transform and go to the other end and free your mind to talk about the ugly, that what we not want to share is so important in order to break free and come forward. You also, Jeffrey and Susannah, did Voice Liberation with Neda, which was beautifully done. Were you invited, or were you also kindly invited by Frances, which was like, do it, just do it, to go to Neda and just have that unknown journey with her?
Well, I can share actually because, yeah, there was a suggestion, but actually there's a scene in the movie that you see where Jason actually says, where are you at with all of this, and really for me, it was, this desire for specialness over actually following the guidance, which is coming through Frances in this. And so it was actually an invitation from the Holy Spirit. When I look back, it's like, it's pretty profound that I would never think my way out was to go sing, in front of a camera. So she kind of made a suggestion that maybe we should all do it. And it was more setting a precedent, like to show where we were at with it. And so, yeah, there was a suggestion, and I was terrified. As you can tell, I'm not a singer, but it was terrifying going in there for sure.
But also that one is not noticed, Jeffrey. I mean, I am a woman, my coping mechanism is shame. I can be, my second name could be Janine Shame. There's so much shame. And particularly when I'm singing, my mother always said when I was young, you're not my daughter when you sing. So I'm so ashamed when I'm singing. So I'm so, I'm seeing you and I'm feeling you, and you cannot sing, and you not just sing, you just sing and express your deepest emotions, and you cry at the same time. So, but again, I didn't feel that you felt that there is a camera with it. Did you feel that, Susannah? Or is there a point that you just don't care about it anymore, or that it's just breaking you open so that you are right there? How did it feel for you?
Yeah, I think I was definitely aware that there were cameras and people recording, because I felt very self-conscious and aware, but I also feel like what Frances shared is like everybody had the same purpose, and I think that already took off some of the edge of it, like something lifted there. And then I remember specifically Acacio. He was in this corner, and I was facing Jeffrey. So the only one.
Just
yes,
for the audience.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, that's a cinematographer. No. So he was in the corner that I would see, but even though he didn't speak English or anything, I just remember feeling really safe around him for some reason. He was just so present and so into what he was doing, and I never felt like he was judging what was going on. He was just doing his work, and I don't know, somehow his presence really helped during that whole thing. And but I also feel, yeah, it when we sat down, like our purpose is to heal, and we do want the release in the end. And I think at some point the emotions just build up so much that the only way out is to actually get it out. And I think that is always something that helps me a lot too. And yeah. I
And
think
you had
that
one
that
of
was a big
those
deal.
typical relationship conversations. I mean, that what you have been singing, you know, expressing yourself with each other is not something that is new to us in a relationship. You had the feeling you're carrying your partner along, which I can so relate to. You know, you have it all on your shoulders. I said, no, yeah, that's how I feel. You know, I was tipping my partner to, yeah, that's how I feel too. And then you express your emotions and about trust also, Jeffrey, to Susannah. So it was a wonderful way of you guys listening to each other. And I love those conversations because I think this is the deepest way of connecting. And we always want to be intimate, but that's real intimacy when we create that closeness in expressing. How did you feel afterwards when you had that communication and voice liberation happening? Was that the first seat when there was a kind of a notion of, wow, marriage would be the next step? Was that planting the seed? Being a little bit romantic again.
Well, the seed was already there. We already had the thought of marriage, but we thought sometime June. But I do feel that that session shifted something. It just released something really heavy, and like we were able to move forward. And yeah, I don't know if you want to share more about it, but I felt really good after.
But Jeffrey, you didn't want to marry in the first place. I mean, it's not that you came there and you were hunting for women to marry them. That wasn't not on your mind, was it?
No, it was not on my mind, but there was a deep desire to heal these past relationships, and this is how it presented itself. And it's funny that you brought that up because Susannah started hearing it not long after, like maybe we're supposed to get married in May. And so there is, now I look back, it's like maybe that was the point where, that connection did shift something. And when you were sharing, there was a point where there was fear of the cameras or whatever, because whatever I was going through, there's always a belief that what I'm going through is the ugliest, jealousy and all this stuff. Like it's so much worse than what Soren and, from my point of view. So that was what the fear really was. But once the emotion came out, when I did walk out of there, I felt like, I felt really lifted up. And it was almost like tearing the Band-Aid. It can't get any worse than this. Of course, there was other scenes, but that was like, let me go all the way into that emotion. And after that, there was a more lightheartedness towards it and the willingness to,
My girlfriend, she's very intuitive, and she was watching you while you were expressing your fear, and she said, I can feel him. So we all had different ways of observing you guys, and I felt, oh, I feel so much compassion for them. I'm so proud of them. So everybody has a kind of an emotion while we were watching you guys in that scene. And the audience, we also captured a scene from Jeffrey while he was walking home, and I think mostly men can so much relate to what he is saying. So let's watch this one.
For so long I've been the talker or running a business or whatever it was, whatever it looked like, captain of the teams and all the things that I did, I was always the leader. Or now I'm in a position where that's not the case. This idea of my worth in my life has always been determined by my money. It's just always been, that's how I've covered over everything. Even with relationship, I always thought like, well, I have money, that's how I'll have a girlfriend, or never really wanted to have a wife, and now this is going on. But
Jeffrey, when you said, your identification was all around money, your business was around money, the way how you were thinking was around money, you came to A Course in Miracles through AA. Was that the way how you, with addiction and drugs, how you were coping with the pressure of having to do and to be someone?
Yeah, I would say that it was a huge coping mechanism, the substance abuse, and probably even deeper now that I see what's going on. I always wanted to make a movie my whole life, and in fact, I took time off of work when I was in my 20s for a year to do that, and I wasn't able to due to my addictions and my highly untrained mind. But when I came to the community, after I had a shift in my consciousness, it was like, now everything had changed, it was all about a purpose. So I never would have made a movie like this that was solely based in purpose. So I could see it was always part of the plan. And that probably prior to that, yeah, I wouldn't even have been aware, of what it was all for. But now,
How long are you on a conscious journey? So when did it start, when you had substance abuse and you decided to go to AA, the 12-step program of AA, and then you came to a course? How long is that ago?
it was actually December 20th, 2013. I left my office. I had a business, a family business that I'd ran for years, and I left the office that evening with no inclination of what was going to happen. I was just going home for the weekend. My father came to my house that night, and what we call in recovery, I was 12-stepped, and I was asked, and for the first time I was willing to get help. And so I went into a treatment program. And from that point forward, 2 weeks later, I had a profound spiritual experience and never went back to work, never did any of those things again, because there was a new purpose in my mind. And it led me not long after to A Course in Miracles. And then 2 weeks after, or 3 weeks after finding the course, I met David Hoffmeister in New York City. And then
Did you
I went out
guys meet? Sorry, did you guys meet in the community, you and Susannah? Yes? Are you thinking if you met there, or did you?
Oh yeah, no, I thought you had said.
No, sorry, I was looking.
I thought you said something to Soren, so I was like, wait, where's that? I actually picked Susannah up from the airport in Monterey on December 7th of 2007.
Was it Monterey in California?
Monterey, Mexico. We had
okay.
We had a project house there to work on an app called Spiri. And I was staying there, and then actually Emily and Jason were staying there as well, and a good friend, Peter. And so I picked her up from the airport, and yeah, it started there.
Right from the first sight. Sorry, I'm always kicking in with these pretty woman questions, but just, be a little bit worldly. Was it right first love on the first sight?
I don't know if I would call it love at first sight, but
Let's a woman answer this question. That's not a question for you, Jeffrey.
Actually.
No, oh no. Bursting a bubble here. So
well,
you
actually
didn't like him in the beginning. You didn't really see him. And so how was the story?
Well, I didn't have any specific thoughts around that, but Jeffrey did hear some things in his mind when he picked me up from the airport, and he heard that he was going to marry me.
Wow.
So that was very clear to him. And then I don't know if you want to finish the story, but
so you didn't know again that you're going to be married. So how awesome is all this not knowing? I start to really love this not knowing part. Jeffrey, please continue the story.
Well, yeah, I did hear that in my mind, and I was in full denial as soon as I heard it. I was like, I'm not marrying this girl. And, of course the projections followed, but I did hear it at that time. And then, yeah, there was a period of attraction that followed, and I said, oh, maybe this is it. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it seemed to happen.
And you're almost 20 years apart. I mean, is there any, beyond the world, we are beyond gender, beyond time and space, and beyond age. Is there any part where you guys feel it? I had 9 years ago, I had a boyfriend. I could feel it when we were listening to music, because I was such an 80s girl, and I would sing to 80s music, and he was born in the 80s. I was a teenager in the 80s. So there I could feel the age difference. Do you ever feel the age difference? Are you guys in so much in no mind space?
I don't really.
Susannah?
I don't really notice it so much. I feel like Jeffrey is pretty young in attitude and everything. I think what I notice most is just like we don't really have anything in common. Like we don't like the same music. We wouldn't like the same hobbies. We're just so different that I don't really notice it through age, but just what we would have liked if we met somewhere else from community. I don't think we would have crossed paths. But yeah, I don't notice it so much.
So you burst the bubble again. There's nothing even in common. That is so funny. And normally people who are marrying, who are hunting, always for the common things. And it's so funny because I do believe it's not about the common things, about the essence that you guys really have. Emily, one of my other favorite parts is when you were singing. Now I got goosebumps, and I left you tons of WhatsApp messages and of course compliments. And it's another reason. There are so many reasons to purchase the movie package. This is another reason to hear Emily sing. And Emily, you have transformed so much from what I saw in the movie and how you look today, which is such a transformation just by the way how you shine and how you're showing up. You have been an opera singer and you have left that career behind. What made you leave such a voice behind and such a career behind? Because I really, really loved it, everybody who watched it.
Well, I think for me, I had lost the passion in singing. You know, I always loved singing, and there was always, I think, a connection that I felt with it. But when I started to pursue it as a career, I just felt like that voice of judgment got very, very strong in my mind, and yeah, trying to make a career, trying to make a living out of it. It just started to not have the same purpose anymore. It became about something else. So I kind of invested so much, all my time in singing and everything, but it seemed like my career was not taking off the way that I had wanted. Mm-hmm. So my voice started to actually shut down. I got to the point where I wasn't even able to sing. It became this painful thing. It had turned from this thing that was felt really, really expansive to something that actually felt like a burden. So, you know, looking back now, I can see the perfect orchestration of it. At the time, it didn't feel like that. It felt like everything was going wrong. Why were things not going the way I wanted? But I did get to a point where I just turned my back on singing. I felt like, you know, I can't do this to myself anymore. I can't try and make this work. And very shortly after that, A Course in Miracles ended up coming into my life. And then soon after that, David Hoffmeister. And I feel like something shifted in my mind. It was like I'd found a new purpose. And I think that that's even what I was searching for in the singing. I was searching for some kind of fulfillment. Yeah. And I felt like I got glimpses with it. But yeah, the more I tried, the less there were glimpses. So then my life just took on a completely different purpose. And for me, singing was, you know, in the past, I didn't really have any inspiration or desire to sing anymore. In fact, I think I was afraid to. I didn't want to go back to that place in my mind. But over the years being in community, you know, the Spirit would keep bringing in prompts to sing or to collaborate, or we ended up, you know, setting up a choir in the community. Like all of these things would come in, and initially my response would be, no, I don't want to do that. Like it was, yeah, it felt like there was a lot of resistance, but the Spirit was so gentle, just brought in so many ways for me to start to open up. And, you know, now I feel like singing feels very different for me. It's, it truly has to be given by the Spirit. You know, I don't live to sing anymore. I feel like I'm grateful when the opportunities come in and that inspiration comes in, and it feels like actually the Spirit is doing it through me. And so it's all about the experience now. It's all about just that opening up and feeling that deep sense of connection. And besides from that, singing doesn't really have a meaning for me anymore. So yeah, in the movie, that was one of those times, you know, like I said, I was in full function just supporting in the mystery school. Like my mind was more into logistics and organization and everything, not singing, not anything like that. And that day when I did sing, it was not planned. It wasn't, you know, I thought I was going to sing. And I used to have this big thing where, especially with opera, I would have to warm my voice up. Mm-hmm. It would, you know, I couldn't possibly sing without preparing and practicing and warming my voice up. But that day, it was just, I was asked to sing, and I could feel the fear come up, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to go for it. And you can see in the movie at the end of it, I just had all of this emotion. But I think mm-hmm. it's not really about the singing. It's about the Spirit somehow reaching me and feeling that. And I think that music is a way that he does that.
That's always the most wonderful part, also when you see it in auditions, you know, when people are going on stage the first time, when they are scared to death when they're there and they have those auditions, and you can see how they work themselves through fear. And that's how it was also in the movie. We could see that you were really showing your vulnerability and singing. And I think in the end, when you were finished, you cried. But that made it all, the beautiful voice, the unexpected, and you being so out there, and it was visible. That all made it so special. That's how I felt. And I'm a dancer, and I had little moments when you said about judgment, and that's so amazing, because I can see that I'm constantly judging myself. We're always having the mirror in front of us. So as a dancer, I'm always judging myself of anything that I see in the mirror. And there is this very rare moment when there is a freedom where just joy is coming forward. That's the moment that you're dancing for. So I also, when you said it's not about, the singing, but it's about spirit, I'm always thinking I'm 53, I'm done. All the young people are coming into the studio, they are 20, they are 23. And I always think, no, next year is stopping, you're done. But I'm constantly coming back to the studio. I have injuries, I come back to the studio. And I think because this is my practice, to have that moment where I'm not judging, where I can let spirit in, and I'm just expressing pure joy. But I'm always coming back with a beginner's mind. I was coming back in the beginning state, trying to practice again the dancing from spirit, which is so different from what we, of course, taught to be. You also were finished, Francis, with your craft. You owned a restaurant. You are a chef by nature. And you were asked to be a chef again and support the team when you were having a very young, a little bit similar to Soren, who had a younger film director, had no clue about directing, and he had 35 years of experience. And then somebody's leading him suddenly. You had somebody who's supposed to lead you what you have to do as a chef, as a restaurant owner, who had no clue about croutons and salad and everything. And you also felt your buttons are pushed and you wanted to go. I mean, you were so ready to go. And I could also so relate to that one. Do you want to share something of your feelings? We cannot hear. Oh, you unmute yourself, Francis.
I had been asked almost the year before to come in and to support at the monastery for this Tabula Rasa Mystery School, and so I had been preparing. I had had many emails back and forth with the leaders in the community about the menu and about running the kitchen, and I had gotten there the 1st of April. I was there all through April. This is your kitchen, and so we completely reorganized it, and so it was my kitchen. I was running the thing, and so it was very very humbling when I was asked to. I'd worked with Jen in April. She was in the community. She was at the Metaphysical Center in Camas, and we had projects together. I loved her. We had a wonderful relationship. And then when she was asked to come in and run the kitchen, I was like, well, I know that she's never cooked, and you want her to run the kitchen for all these people, 3 meals a day? She doesn't know what to do. I mean, she hardly ate, much less cook for anybody. So I really struggled also with the fact that the food that she was preparing, I didn't care for the taste. I didn't want my name associated with that food. I had a lot of resistance to this. And I also felt like, why didn't anybody come to me and say what they wanted? If you wanted things changed, why didn't you come and ask me? Why didn't you come and tell me you wanted to change things up? It was just, we're bringing in somebody else, we're going a different direction. And so I was just totally resistant. I was totally resistant to the whole thing. And I was like, oh, they just want me out. They just want me out. So I'm just going to go. They don't want me here.
I would have thought the same, yes. Yes. So did you also, you must have been angry at everybody. Were you really angry? Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you also, the new leader who came in, she felt that you were reluctant, and you said
Oh,
to
yeah.
yourself, "Oh yeah, I would have done the same." I mean, you said to her, "Well, then you do it. You fall flat on your nose, but you will do it by yourself." So sometimes we all know that part when the whole universe seems to choreograph, everything in the way that our wounds can come up. And it's like the play is so greatly put into motion, and everybody plays his or her part, which is so shocking and makes it so real, of course, to feel that. So the shift when, was so sweet when you finally hugged each other, when you really came from your heart and you were okay and peaceful. How long did it take? You had already almost packed your stuff. You were gone. You wanted to leave them and had that feeling of they want to get me out. They don't tell me. So this is my assumption. To back going into the kitchen and really embrace her being part and being happy again. How long did it take?
Well, I think there was a full week of me being very resistant, and I didn't help. I was not being helpful. I was just like, you just tell me what to do. I'm not in charge, so just tell me what you want to do. She had no idea what to do. So for a full week, it was very, very disjointed, very unorganized, and we were really struggling. I didn't even want to be in the kitchen. I tried to not even go to the kitchen.
Frances,
What's
how was
that?
the food? How was the food in that week? Did you guys notice that the food was not as good as usual?
There were definitely times that there was not enough food. There was definitely times that as far as the shopping or the preparing the amounts and things like that, she didn't know how much to do and so on. So there was definitely shortages at times. But when I was finally ready to go, and I remember going and talking with Lisa, who was in charge of the Tabula Rasa, and Frances Sue was behind the camera, and at one point Frances Sue broke character and she started talking, and she said, "Do you trust us?" Because I was ready to go. I was just like, I'm done. There's got to be an easier way. This is too hard. I was just feeling so dejected and so unwanted. Mm-hmm. And Frances said, "Do you trust us?" And I broke into tears. Of course. I said, "I love you. I love you." But it was so hard for me to go through it. I just couldn't take it anymore. And that was a turning point right there. That was a turning point because it was really all about trust. The whole thing was all about trust for me. It was all about me being able to trust the spirit, to trust the guidance, to trust that the people in charge had been guided to bring in Jen. There was something Lisa said to me. She said, "We don't sit around thinking of how can we make Frances' life harder. We're just following this guidance." And that was the thing for me, is just to stop thinking that I knew best, thinking that I knew how to do this. Mm-hmm. I knew how to run the kitchen. I knew how to organize people and make menus and do the shopping, and I could do all of that. But I was trusting my own knowledge rather than listening to the spirit and trusting those who were being guided to put things in place so that I could then
break open.
Exactly. So,
and Frances, what I like so much, sorry to interrupt you, what I find so interesting, because also when I work with leaders, they have such a hard time to let go, as you said, Soren, to let go of control, to go humble, to let somebody else who has no clue come forward. This part was Jen. So inside something in you breaks open, which is trust. It has nothing to do that you have to prove yourself, that you have to have lots of communication, and Francis didn't have to be the mediator with the team. This is usually what people do. So you just go as, the one in the kitchen who is definitely bumped, and everybody would think, oh, they want to get rid of her, but that was not the case. So you are broken open by this notion of trust. The only question that Francis is having for you is not trying to please you, not trying to make you comfortable. It's the only sentence, are you trusting? That makes you opening up. And then something shifts in you, and then seemingly you'll go back to the kitchen and you guys collaborate in the most harmonious way.
Yes.
And that's what I find so important. It's not that we do all the work and all the concepts and all the endless talking to come to an end or compromise, but that you come in and have that split second of holy instant bliss that you trust, and then the whole thing shifts. And that's
Right.
what I find so beautiful about the thing. And these are all the moments, guys, that comes out where it's really showing the beauty of the instant, and that it's making so practical that inside is the shift that's happening, that we don't have to do tons of overwork and tons of meetings and calls, but that it can happen in such a gentle way. Now, coming to the end of the talk show, I mean, you must be so grilled, guys, in this heat. How did your life change after the talk show? Not the talk show. Of course, I hope that something is changing too here. How did your life change after you have done the documentary? Who wants to start? Soren?
I could share.
Francis, please do so.
Yeah. It's interesting. I did spend the next year at the monastery, and but I wasn't filled to do cooking. I didn't feel like I was identified with that anymore, and so I did a lot of other support in the maintenance and grounds, and I loved it. It was wonderful, and after that, I just have been a lot of. I've attended many retreats. I went to one in Mexico, and I didn't do cooking. I was just a participant, and it was just so much joy. I really felt like just breaking through that willingness to trust had just opened up my heart, my mind so completely that I was able to really feel joy so much more intensely. And it's really been such a change in my life. I mean, I really listened to guidance, and I've gone many different places since then, just following guidance. And I've spent time in New Mexico, and I've spent time in Utah, southern Utah. I've spent time in Washington. I currently am in Washington State, and I just am just going where I feel guided and trusting completely that it's all for my good and it's all for my mind training. And I'm just very grateful for the time that I've spent with the community at the monastery, because it's really helped me to hear the guidance and to follow it and trust it. And I'm just very grateful.
Francis, it makes trust so sexy. I mean, if you go, we are living in a world where, we're having goals, we're having vision, now we're having purposes, but it's all for the same. It's determination, it's doing this, and it's doing ourselves, it's hard work. And then if you say to people that we kind of need a balance, or it's more feminine, more yin-oriented qualities like trusting, accepting, and allowing and receiving, surrendering, that's not sexy. I mean, who wants to learn that? Everybody thinks life is going to be so boring. That's it. No career. Everything is down the road. And definitely would not say that more joy is coming up. Jeffrey, you had a business. You left that business from one day to another. You lived for 2 years in the Living Miracles community. And now I think you want to do something with prison. So what came out of this?
Well, yeah, it was the beginning, really, for me. I had been in the community for about a year prior to the mystery school, and then for a few more years after. But it was the beginning of what always stands out each time I watch the movie is the line that Francis shares in the narration, that our only source of pain is withholding love. And when I saw to what degree I was doing that during those 30 days, and to what degree I can continue to do that. It's certainly not as extreme as it was, but I mean, at the mystery school, there was nights where Susannah would wake, where were you last night? And that was so strong that I would go sleep in the gathering room, where I would have this, isolation or pull away. But that was the beginning of me facing those deeper patterns in my mind. And so I continue to, I mean, it's a continued effort to, with whatever it shows up in my life of, people not giving me what I want, or the approval, or, the love that I think I deserve, then trying to pull away. And then it's always that reminder. And I actually hear Francis's voice from the movie quite often to the answer to that question. And so it's a continued practice. And I feel like I just jumped into the deep end in order to get a head start on that. And then the other thing that I actually shared earlier, and probably that ties into what I'm doing now, is with every decision I make every day is a decision between either I want to be special or I want to follow the guidance. And the guidance is what will make me happy, just like going into that singing session, or it showed up so many other times in the years after the documentary. But that continues to be the prayer, like, what is the guidance? And so now it seems to have me on a bit of a mission here in Nevada to do some prison work and to extend the message in that way. And even, Susannah is actually now in Holland, and she just left a week ago. So even that little transition, it wasn't so little when it happened, but even watching the patterns of my mind around that, and the day she leaves, and then just watching those little nuances, and then like, oh wow, wanting that connection or the special part of it. And then when I would actually do what I hear, whether it was clean the house or write a message to my friend Dale, as soon as I did it, I was like, woo, the spirit comes rushing back in. And it's like, oh my God, I've heard David and many others from the community say it a million times, but it's practically doing it in those moments that continues to be a practice. So I think the documentary was just a leaping off point for me that I am forever grateful for.
So you are the Jeffrey who connects with Dale. Now I get it.
Yes,
Oh,
we will be having a call.
I'm so happy. I mean, Dale, who doesn't love Dale? I mean, the audience, that's going to be a next talk show. We are going to talk about that, Jeffrey. Actually, I wanted to do once a talk show series in prison, talking about freedom starts in your mind. And I think that is so amazing if you do that in prison, and then we have Dale. So we definitely will have a call. Now I know the Jeffrey behind that. Thank you so much. That's so great. Thank you, Emily, for connecting us. Susannah, one of the last romantic questions. I mean, every woman who sees you with Jeffrey, a man who is talking about his feelings, is, not resisting love, is going out and reaching out to you. That must be such a blessing. But do you guys are living in the clouds all the time, or are some parts do you still having conflicts in a relationship? Can you still sometimes throw him out and hang him out of the window sometimes?
Well,
you can tell us. No secret thoughts are heard at the living room.
Well, the purpose of our relationship is to heal. So it is like whatever comes up and gets triggered, whether it's abandonment or anger, or you're not doing what I want to get something from you, like it's all going to come up. So yeah, that definitely is still happening. And but I think as long as we're just really open and sharing like what's going on, it's just so important just to keep on communicating, keep on being open, keep on being vulnerable and willing to be wrong about it and let it go. And as long as we keep to that, we're fine. It's fine. Like anything can be shared. But if it ever gets into, I want to hold on to this and I want to be right about my perception.
But it's never, you're just frozen, so I'm continuing to talk.
Happen or what?
Okay. But it's never the feeling of it's done. It's in a relationship. You're always continuously having that talk with each other. So it's always a kind of a step into bravery again for you guys?
In a way, but I feel that it's gotten very, so much easier just to be able to share. I think at some point we even got very comfortable in just sharing our thoughts and feelings. But now what's happening now, for example, I've been having Holland come to mind for a while and just feeling stronger, like I need to do something with this. And that was a conversation we had about a week before I left or something. And that was actually, again, really, really stepping into bravery. I could feel that leap again, because it was giving the relationship over again, not having no idea when I'm coming back, but knowing I need to go on this mission. And then Jeffrey following his inspiration with the prison, and just both following our own steps, and still being connected through all of it, and still wanting to heal with all of it. But yeah, that was another point where I could feel, oh yeah, this is it takes courage to share this and explore together. And so I think we get these opportunities. They just continue to come up.
Wow, that's going to be interesting what's happening with you guys. So definitely let's stay in contact with this romance story. Going to Spain, to Emily and Soren, we're looking so colorful and peaceful there. How is life after the monastery in Utah going on for you in Spain? You have open co-living, so people can come to you. It's a beautiful place that you have there. How is life, daily life now?
Soren says that's me. Yeah, it's pretty vibrant. It's, you know, what Francis and everyone has been talking about during the filming of the documentary, like how we live our lives, following the guidance of the Spirit, you know, that hasn't changed. That's what we're doing every day, day in, day out. And I just know for me, with this this center that we have in Mallorca, it was like a whole new adventure for me. We came just about a year and a half ago, and was setting up the center, opening it up as a mind training center, having people come from all over Europe and all over the world to join in this purpose together. And for me, it's just been this hugely expansive experience, because for many years I was, you know, in a follower role, you know, just really linked up with ones and follow through. Like you know, I was, the guidance would be shared, and then I would just follow through, and nothing has changed in that. It's exactly the same, but now I have to find it more within, with overseeing the center here, and that's been amazing, like really, really expansive. I'm still linked with ones in the centers all over in Mexico and US, so it's, we're always joined on the decisions, but there was something that had to strengthen within me coming here to Spain. And yeah, I'm just grateful, you know. So it is very vibrant. We've opened up for co-living now, and we have our first group of co-livers here. Just diving in with expression sessions, and just letting up their emotions. And it's a new phase, and every time we have a new phase, it feels vibrant, it feels fresh. It's like you can just feel that the Spirit is underneath it. There's an aliveness. So that's the phase that we're in at the moment.
I love it so much. So I hope I'm going to join co-living. Francis knows how much I tried to come to Mexico when Corona happened. And then I was always trying, you know, can I at least go to Utah? No, that didn't happen. And then I got you grouchy. And then I reluctantly finally booked my vacation when, you know, a few days after I finalized my vacation, then suddenly Mallorca opened for co-living. I said, no, you must be kidding. You know, now I cannot come again. I just booked my vacation. So obviously this is not in the Spirit's agenda right now, but I see myself that I don't know to which center I will come, but I definitely will come at one point in time. And as we are all living, you know, there is no linear time, I see myself already there. So how about this one? Do you see yourself already shooting a second movie, Francis, after this successful one?
No, not really. I mean, the thing is, this one is very touching for myself during the process and in the editing. And I think I'm very happy to see that everybody else can receive it the same way that I felt. But I think more or less is more like Emily said, the purpose behind this movie was to find the healing and find the peace amongst all the specific logistics and decisions that can we really still hold on to this something so solid that is beyond it all. And I think after the movie, it's more like, let's keep moving on towards that direction. So more and more, the plans started to become even more and more abstract, and in terms of what is the projects that are coming, become more and more irrelevant, because it feels like the takeaway from the last 3.5 years is that this is too rewarding, and there is this instant peace that we can all aim for, and that's just focus on that and nothing else.
I don't have the skills or knowledge that it takes to make a movie. I'm just someone who lives on prayer and wants nothing else but to feel truly alive. I don't know where this is all leading, but I do know that the instructions I received and the act of following them with my team have opened up wounds that everyone is used to covering up. Hurt, pain, rejection, so familiar and so ancient. Can they be healed this time, once and for all?
Take Me Home is now also released as a great movie package. I highly, highly recommend it to purchase it. You can see the link in the text box below. Thank you so much, Soren. Thank you so much, Amelie. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, Susannah in the Netherlands. I'm going to Breda actually in September. I'm sending you a mail, maybe we can meet in the Netherlands in case you should still be there. Thank you so much also to the S. Francis. I hope that I'm going to see you, and I would love to cook with you. I would love to cook. I was in my monastery 28 years ago, and I'm not a cook. If I want to brag, I say I was the salad chef for hundreds of monks in a Buddhist center at the Lake District. So that's what happened. Thank you so much, Francis. We are going to talk about guidance in the next talk show. That's going to be very, very helpful for many of us. Wherever you are, dear audience, have a soulful, peaceful rest of your day, and hopefully until soon. Bye-bye.
To the world, it's mysterious because it's like, what's the formula? What are the steps? A, B, C, D, E, F. You can't really know what the problem is that the plan is meant to solve. You have to be quite clueless, trusting and clueless to be carried through to that experience of transcendence.